Good evening. I'd like to welcome all of the candidates and the audience that has come this evening. I particularly would like to thank the Carroll County Times, the Community Media Center, and WTTR, as well as the Senior Center for hosting this event. My name is Claudia Lewis, and currently I serve as the president of the Carroll County chapter of the League of Women Voters. League of Women Voters was formed in 1920 following the efforts to garner the vote for women. It has a mission to improve our government and engage all citizens in the decisions that will impact their life. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages informed and active participation and works to increase the understanding of important public policy. The League works directly through voter registration and turnout for elections by publishing things like the Voter's Guide, and it also works with advocacy. Advocacy, though, takes a little longer. The National League has many issues that have been discussed in every state by every one of the League groups. And until they have reached a consensus, no League member can advocate for anything that is not a policy that has been put before all the membership. Tonight, we're going to hear from the candidates that are vying for District 3 County Commissioner. Mr. Paul Kasax is an active community member and an employee with the Department of Natural Resources and a good personal friend. Will be serving as our moderator. Mr. Kasak will be going over the rules and will be introducing our candidates, and I think it will be a really productive evening. Thank you for coming.
Okay. So first we're going to introduce the candidates, and I believe they're closest to me from the way I read them. May Alexander, just raise your hand. Dennis Frazier. Matthew Holbert, Lynn Malik, Kenneth Mercer, Dave Roush, and Maria Warburton. And now each of you will have 3 minutes to do an introduction, and Claire will hold up the timer so that they can see where it's going to come from. 1 minute, okay, and then a stop, and ultimately penalized. You know, you'll lose your microphone. Yeah, all of that. Increasing pain and suffering. So we'll start with May.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As you said, my name is May Alexander. I am your unaffiliated candidate for District 3 County Commissioner race. I am a graduate of McDaniel College, and I've been living in Westminster for 6 years now. I first became interested in politics when I moved here because I got to register to vote in my first election here in Westminster, which was a real privilege. And since then, I've really tried to become more involved in our community, and now, thankfully, as of this week, work at the Community Media Center, which has really broadened my horizon as far as what we should be accomplishing in Carroll County and how we can get there, as well as connecting more to you, to the citizens of this county. The things I'm interested in learning about from you include hearing about your thoughts and your ideas about where Carroll County should be going in the future. I know that we all say, you know, we need to look ahead and we need to see what's going on for the next generation, but sometimes I think that falls by the wayside as we're busy in our present lives. And what I would like to do as County Commissioner is make myself readily available to each of you. You'll have my personal phone number, my email, my website. All of this information is located on the table in the lobby for you, so that you can contact me with any questions, any concerns that you have. A lot of the things that I would like to work on revolve around strengthening our education. As a graduate of McDaniel, I think that the college has a lot to offer to the community. They work with our local schools a lot. They work with our community involvement programs. And I've seen that the education here has some really great aspects. We have a higher graduation rate for high school than the state does. And I think that's something to be really proud of, and I'd like to keep us moving in that direction. In addition to that, I want to see better transportation. How can we get our workers to jobs that aren't available here but are available in neighboring counties? And in the same aspect, how do we create more jobs in Carroll County for our workers that aren't able to travel out of the county to work? Those are just a few of the things that I would like to focus on in my race for county commissioner, and then I invite you to share your thoughts and ideas with me anytime. I'm really excited to be here. I'm a little nervous, sorry. But again, just, I'm here for you and I'm here to talk to you, so thank you very much for being here this evening. I appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Frazier. I'm Republican. I'm running for County Commissioner in District 3. My wife Debbie and I have 2 children, Christopher and Sarah. I've been a teacher and a wrestling coach for the past 35 years, and currently I'm a councilman for the City of Westminster. When I'm asked why I'm running for County Commissioner in District 3, my answer is because I live here, my family lives here, and my friends live here. I'd like to try to make Carroll County a great place in which to live and to raise a family. In order for it to be a great place in which to live and raise a family, we have to have a top-rated school system and a top-rated sheriff's department. Unfortunately, both of those agencies right now face the same obstacle. They're being underfunded by this current Board of County Commissioners. If you're a teacher or a police officer just starting out, your job hunt is probably not going to include Carroll County. And why would it? When you could go to a neighboring county and make thousands, and depending on your years of service, maybe tens of thousands more than you can in Carroll County. Why work here? If you want great schools for your children to learn in and great neighborhoods for your family to grow up in, then we have to make a commitment in Carroll County to fully fund the school system and the sheriff's department. Now, I'm not in favor of raising taxes. Should be applause for that. Not in favor of raising taxes, but what I'm going to try to do is bring more business into the county. I know you've probably heard that from everyone running for county commissioner for the past 10 to 20 years. But as a councilman for the City of Westminster, we already have a plan in motion. We're putting up a high-speed fiber optic system that can transmit data, upload and download about 100 times faster than what's currently available in Carroll County. When we started a pilot program, one of the places was at Business Park off of 97. When the word got out that we were doing this, an adjacent business park owner came up to us and said, please include us in this program. We told him we couldn't do it at that time, but we planned to build out the entire city in the future. He said he would put up the money to pay for the drops that went from the street to every business in both business parks if we were going to do that. So he came up with about $200,000 for the city just to have his business park included in the high-speed fiber optic network. Because he knows, like the city knows, the businesses want this. We can do the same thing in the county. We can build a high-speed fiber optic system in our business areas and our industrial areas. What if we build that out? I would like to lease it out to a third party, so we'll get revenue coming in. We don't have to worry about the day-to-day maintenance of it. And we also increase our tax base. That's about all I can go over in 3 minutes. Thank you.
Matthew?
I am Matthew Holbert. This is the first time I've ever run for anything. I'm doing so because I believe that fundamentally our government is being handled incorrectly, not just here in Carroll County, but elsewhere. I think a lot of the problems stem from a lack of principles and simplicity, and I think that when you're guided by money and conveniences, you inevitably will fall into some kind of pit. I am a Republican. My primary concerns are with education, agriculture, and with economics. And I believe that the most important struggle, or really the most important thing that we can do in the 21st century, is to turn off the TV and to put our hands into the soil. And that's the easiest thing that we can do in this time to change how the process of our society is going. I am an advocate for the teachers and for the students, the parents of the education system. I don't necessarily believe that something like Common Core or piling money into a system is going to save it. I think that it's like education at this point is very much like a vehicle from the 1920s where the engine has failed and the doors are falling off, and we're still trying to replace parts instead of actually trying to just buy a new one or actually replace the motor or something like that. I believe that fundamentally one of the most important things that we can do is to stand united in the problems that we face today, things like economic problems, things like, and I'm all for industry, I'm sure, as far as fiber optic cables and green technology, but I think that it has its place, and this being a rural community, I think that the most important thing that we can do is to restore certain aspects of our community, like the agricultural. I mean, we have a farm museum. I think that kind of heritage is important to our society and to our community. As a commissioner, I would seek to lower the taxes for people who have something like a garden on their property or people who have a farm. Fundamentally, I think that would be an important way to incentivize people to get to make a garden of some kind, not even something that's edible necessarily, but something that is beneficial to the ecology. And beneficial to yourself. For heaven's sake, the agriculture is very important to our spirit and to our sense of where we're from. I've lived here for 19 years, and I would like to see this place be a much more beautiful and much more prosperous place. So, thank you.
Lynn?
I'd start off by saying I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Carroll County Times, WTTR, and the Community Media Center for all their hard work to get this together. And especially I want to thank the voters who are watching this forum so that you may make an informed decision on who you will cast your vote for. This upcoming election will determine whether we have 4 more years of the same local politics and spending. I am Lynn Malik, and I am asking for your vote in becoming your next commissioner for District 3, so that we may change the status quo and move Carroll County forward with an open and right-sized government. I grew up here in Carroll County. I'm the daughter of a small businessman whose shop was right here in Westminster at the corner of Main Street and Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm a wife and a mother of 4 who, like my husband and I, have grown up in Westminster and have attended or are attending Carroll County Public School System. I have 1 grandson, and when I look at him, I know that we must put government on the right track. Our decisions now will shape the county he inherits. I've been a corporate executive and a small business owner. I've produced an award-winning local television show on government affairs. Most recently, I worked as a researcher analyst for the Commissioner's Office, and I witnessed firsthand what the lack of sound written policies and procedures has done to affect ineffectual leadership. I will be ready to fix this on day 1. I, like many of you, believe that our new board would fulfill its campaign promises. I, like you, was hopeful that our cost of government would be reduced. But yet our debt remains at record levels. We're spending $17 million more in our operating costs, and our overall budget is over $30 million higher. This board's economic plan has spent over $7.5 million of our money, co-signed for bonded debt and made deals, while all along our business revenue continues to be flat. Meanwhile, unemployment remains at recession levels. Sadly, after 3 budgets, the results are clear. I am asking for your vote so that we may begin to write policies that will get government out of the way of business and allow them to create the jobs. I am asking for your vote so that we may begin to budget to need, not to revenue received, so that we may begin to reduce the burden of debt on the next generation. I have followed the money of the county for the past 3 years. I have been your watchdog. I know we can fix this, and I know the time is now. I ask for your vote on June 24th.
Kenneth?
Good evening. I too would like to thank the Carroll County Times, the League of Women Voters, the Community Media Center, and WTTR for hosting this, and especially all of you that have come out this evening so that you can be better informed as to who is running for your commissioner. My name is Ken Mercer, and I decided to run for county commissioner because I feel there's been a lack of leadership in District 3. I also care about the county and our future. I'd like to share with you a little bit about myself and about how I would like to serve the county, and you'll hear about that over the next 2 hours, I believe. I grew up in Carroll County. I moved here when I was in middle school. I attended West Middle and I graduated out of Westminster High. A year after that, I went to college for a year, and after that I joined the military. It was during that time that I was in the military that Ronald Reagan was our president. It was his strong commitment to a military and his strong economic views in Reaganomics that formed my political views. Serving our country was one of the most important and proudest times of my life. Traveled the world and I experienced a lot. I am now married for 23 years to my wonderful wife, Virginia, and we have 3 children. My oldest is a sophomore in college, and my other 2 attend Winners Mill, and they're here in the audience tonight. I am a small business owner. My business is located here in Westminster. It's not Mercer Carpet. I get asked that all the time. I've volunteered for many organizations in this community, and I've been a member of the Legislative Committee in the Chamber of Commerce for several years. I've been involved in politics on the local, state, and federal level, and a little bit in the presidential election last time, which is very different than anything that we experience on this smaller local level. Because of my involvement in the community, I see that we're at a crossroads for our county government at this time, and I'm asking for your vote on June 24th to determine what direction we will be going. I will draw on my experience from the military and as a business owner to bring the leadership to the county that is needed. As commissioner, my focus will be on the budget and the agencies that we fund. In addition, I will work for better economic development, ensure that our public safety issues are met, and keep up with the infrastructure needs. I believe that successful communities create quality places to live, support education, and promote community involvement, and I have a plan to accomplish those goals. My background of growing up in the county, raising my own family here, along with serving our country and owning a small business, I believe has prepared me to serve as your next commissioner. Thank you very much.
Dave. Hi, I'm Dave Roush. I'm your commissioner from District 3, and I'm currently serving as the president of the Board of Commissioners. I offer you the experience and knowledge I have gained in a lifetime of leadership in industry and community service to provide common sense solutions to our problems. I earned a degree in chemical engineering from Lehigh University and worked for Lehigh Cement Company for over 38 years in plant management positions, interrupted only by my service in the Army. We came to Westminster in 1977 when I was transferred to Lehigh's Union Bridge plant. I earned an MBA from Frostburg, and in 1985 I became the plant manager at Union Bridge, serving for 18 years. My wife Dee and I raised our 2 children here. They graduated from Westminster High School and went on to earn degrees from colleges in the area. Both now have their own families and have brought us the joys of 6 grandchildren. While with Lehigh, I participated in community service activities. After I retired, I got even more involved. I served the Historical Society of Carroll County, the Carroll Community College Foundation, the Hoflog Barn Committee, the board of the local YMCA, Rape Crisis Intervention Service, Westminster Rotary Club, the Carroll County Chamber, and the Westminster United Methodist Church. I also served as the chair of the committee to build a new fire hall in New Windsor. My service to local government has included County Board of Zoning Appeals, the Economic Development Commission, and of course the current Board of County Commissioners. During the past 3.5 years, we designated the Sheriff's Department as the county's primary law enforcement agency, saving $2 million a year while crime went down 12%. We've refused to implement a rain tax while still addressing our stormwater management needs. We have lowered tax rates in each of the past 3 years. We have reduced county debt. I worked hard to convince the board to move forward with the proposed extension of the runway of the airport in Westminster. We have begun the construction of the Emergency Services Training Center, and I look forward to the invaluable support that it will provide to our volunteer emergency responders. I have led significant improvements in our business climate and our economic development efforts. Last year, we saw $30 million in business capital investment, gaining 400,000 square feet of new and renovated commercial and industrial space. In these years, we gained over 2,000 new jobs. We have issued 840 commercial industrial UNO permits, representing $75 million in private capital investment. I offer you a unique set of qualifications to continue to serve you as your county commissioner. Thank you.
Maria?
Good evening. I'm Maria Warburton. It's a long wait to get here to the end, but my husband and I have lived in Carroll County for 25 years. We both graduated from West Virginia University with forestry degrees and decided to settle in Carroll because it afforded us the opportunity to purchase a few acres while still living close to a small town. We built a home and raised 2 sons here, both now in college, one a senior at St. Mary's College of Maryland and the other at Loyola University in Baltimore. We have been busy the past 20 years working, raising our kids, and volunteering in a variety of ways, including the activities our boys were involved with, such as Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, a host of activities at the school, and playing a lot of sports. My family has certainly benefited from all that Carroll has to offer, including the wide variety of recreational offerings, the programs available through the local colleges and the Arts Council, the good schools, and just being part of a great community. I am concerned, however, that this quality of life might not be available in the future, including when my own kids decide where they want to put down their roots. Like many of you, I'm frustrated with some of the stuff going on at the federal and the state level. But the answer to this frustration is not dismantling things at the county level. I'm running for commissioner because I'm experienced and knowledgeable in many of the areas that the commissioners should be focused on. Things like water supply, wastewater, stormwater management, road construction, development, and budget preparation. I think more creative thinking is needed when it comes to improving infrastructure and enhancing programs. The commissioners should be leaders in looking for partnership opportunities with the schools, the colleges, the municipalities, and even outside groups. This way, we can take advantage of the things each of us does well. For example, the shooting range at the Northern Landfill. To me, that's an example that was built a few years ago, and that's an example of private groups and the county working together to build a facility and fund its operational costs partially through user fees. I've spent the last couple months meeting and talking to a lot of people around the county, and I'm looking forward to doing that for the next few months. I have a card in the back. It has my contact information on it, website, Facebook, email, phone number. Invite me to a group that you have, or a meet and greet, or even just contact me one-on-one to talk about things. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. For this next portion, I would ask the audience not to clap, so we'll just go through the questions, okay? And we're going to give you guys some instructions. You've heard them, I think, last night, but I'll run through them again. So I will ask a question. Each of you will have 2 minutes to answer that question and that question only. And there won't be any debate among candidates. This is just an informational forum so the audience can get information. At the end of the questions session for the evening, you'll each have 2 minutes to give a summary of whatever you want to say. And again, we'll have a timekeeper, and 2 to 3 seconds after your 2 minutes is up, you're going to hear a bell, and you really should stop then, and we won't have to cut off your microphone. It might be fun, but that's okay. The questions that we have in front of us were submitted to the Carroll County Times, Community Media Center, local League of Women Voters members, and from tonight's live audience. In addition, viewers of our live streaming program can submit questions during tonight's broadcast via Twitter at #Carroll2014. Tonight's forum is being recorded, so we ask that everyone, again, turn your cell phone off and don't clap in between the questions. Yeah, just be quiet. So I think we'll, everyone will behave and it'll be good. Okay, so Maria, we'll start with you at that far end for this first question. The support for nonprofits, critical human services have been severely impacted over the past few budget cycles. Since much of their funding is through matched grants, how would you propose handling issues that might arise if they are not funded?
Well, first of all, I'd be an advocate for funding them fully. It doesn't make sense to not take advantage of a matching grant. If we get a matching grant from the state or the federal or a private company, we should take care of that. In my sense, and I volunteered this winter at the cold weather shelter, several different occasions, and to me, funding the nonprofits helps save money in the long run. You're stopping issues that might come up in the future. If there's nonprofits for medical care, you're catching a problem before it gets worse. We had people at the cold weather shelter that had to go to the hospital. Whether they had gotten proper care before that, I don't know. So to me, funding the nonprofits is something that should be done, and in the long run, it's a cost saver.
Thank you. Dave, if anybody can't remember the question as we go through, I can read it again. So.
No, that's all right. Well, as you could tell from my introductory remarks, I've spent several years trying to assist the nonprofits in this community in accomplishing their functions, and they serve a very important function. They're supported in a number of ways from a number of sources, including public philanthropy and including grants from the county government, and they do important work, and we need to continue to support them. They're in many cases the county's contribution to their funding represents between 2 and 5% of their income because of the many other sources that they have that provide their funding. This is important work that needs to be done. We need to support it, but we only have, there's a limited amount of money, and we have to make the judgments as best we can about how to spread that money around. Every nonprofit that I've ever worked for or dealt with had felt they could use more, and I'm sure that they can, but there isn't always more for everybody, and so it falls to the commissioners to make decisions, and sometimes those aren't always the way each individual agency would like them to be.
Okay, next.
Paul, as you mentioned, many of the organizations do receive matching funds from the dollars they receive from the county. We need to make sure that all of the nonprofit agencies are receiving matching funds. If they don't, we can work with them, get them to work with the agencies that are using matching funds so they understand how the process is and that they can receive those dollars as well. The agencies do a lot for our county. We need to make sure that they are able to do what they need to do. We don't want the government doing what they do. It will not be as efficient, and it will be more costly. In addition, for many years, there has been a request from nonprofits, such as the fire departments, to have a gaming night. I am not opposed to that. I think that we need to continue to work with our state delegation and have that pass in Annapolis.
Okay, Lynn?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Okay, support for nonprofit critical human services have been severely impacted over the past few budget cycles. Since much of their funding is through matched grants, how would you propose handling issues that might arise if they are not funded?
Well, I'd like to start off by saying the issues are going to arise. There's not an if, it's a when. Growing up in this community, it was always about know your neighbor and wave to a stranger. We need to learn to work together and not put so much emphasis on one nonprofit or another. We know that there are thousands of nonprofits, hundreds, I'll say hundreds in this community, that we really don't fund, and they still seem to help the community. We need to look at duplicity across the nonprofits. Maybe they can work together to get the help that's needed in the community. And also, I think that we need to look at foundations, because these grants that many times they're looking at are government-funded grants, and government money is going to start running a little low on these. So there are many foundations that are created out there that don't have a match. They give the money based on your resume, interview, whatever your needs are for that particular nonprofit. So that's how I would really address it. Look at the foundations, start knowing your neighbor, waving to a stranger, and not put so much emphasis on just these 6 or 7 nonprofits that we do fund, but look at the other ones as well.
Thank you.
Sure. I personally think that that is a very necessary issue as far as coming to that before it becomes a problem. I think nonprofits definitely have a huge impact on our community, and I mean, one of the best things that we could possibly do, I think, would be to first of all promote them and actually get them across to people so that they know they even exist. I think a lot of people probably don't know about some of them, at least. The other thing would be to help them to organize among themselves, perhaps, maybe having some kind of events or promotional kind of festivities or something of that sort to get people to actually, for instance, the public gardens that are around here in Westminster. There was a while back where I actually was talking with them about getting people involved in using that garden and like a large number of people. And I think that would be an important endeavor to actually see actualized, would be to have the community actually involved in these kind of nonprofits. I think a lot of it has, like I said, to do with just people not knowing about them or not realizing that they exist. So I think promotion would be a big part of that kind of endeavor. So other than that, I think a lot of it obviously would have to do with you can't necessarily rely entirely on these nonprofits. You have to do it as a community with your own charity as well, and I think that that's an important aspect as well. So,
thank you, Dennis.
Okay, the nonprofits work with the people who have the most need. We have to fund the nonprofits. And because the nonprofits get matching grants, every dollar we give to nonprofits is like giving them $2. They get matching grants from other agencies. This is a quality of life issue for the people that they serve. You cannot stop the funding for the nonprofits. You shouldn't cut it down. One thing that could be done, though, is to coordinate the nonprofits so we don't have duplicate services. Thank you.
May?
I don't know if any of you have done grants research or applied for a grant or researched match funding, but it is time-consuming and grueling work. So for these nonprofits to be reaching out there for these grants, they're already putting in the effort. Why shouldn't we put in the same effort? If they need matching funding, even if the county commissioners can only give them $10,000, but they need $15,000 to get that grant, there are opportunities for us as a county government to help them fundraise. We have the resources. I have enough knowledge in that ability, having done grants research, having done fundraising through the Miss America program for many years. I would gladly lay down my time to help them fundraise. If they needed that $5,000, I think that's a realistic goal that we could work together as a community. As a volunteer with the Second Chances program at the Human Services Department of Carroll County, they cannot afford to not have funding. They do so much for this community in giving free food to people who don't have it by providing food to shelters and food banks, and not only that, but giving it away in their Second Chances store. I work their pepper plot, and we grow peppers and give them away to people that need it. That is one of the nonprofits that we're talking about. And if you can say that that shouldn't be funded, you know, I mean, what kind of people are you if that's something that shouldn't be funded? So I think there's definitely a reasonable expectation for us to be able to continue that funding and help them in any way we can. And I think my job as a county commissioner would be to see that done.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question. We'll start with Maria again, and then we'll switch it up a little bit. Current commissioners have struggled with the issue of waste to energy. What is your position on waste to energy joint proposal with Frederick County? If Carroll withdraws, then what is your vision for disposing of solid waste in the future?
I'm against the waste to energy incinerator that's been batted around the last couple years. It's been proven that it's going to be, from a money standpoint especially, very costly based on the benefit that we would get from it, if any. As far as alternatives, there's lots of things, you know, out there technology-wise. We need to work with the trash haulers. Obviously, the municipalities have their own collections, but in the county, people pay for that themselves. But there's ways to encourage recycling, even with the haulers. I know there's been talk of giving like the blue recycle bins to residents, even if they're not in a municipality, because studies show that just the mere fact of giving folks a bin, they recycle. They don't go out and buy the bin for $40 or $50 themselves, but they get it, and then they use it. I was talking to one of the municipalities, they're thinking of buying bigger bins because people are using the ones that the size they bought. So that's certainly one way is the recycling. There's composting technologies out there. There's you know, ways to create methane, to burn material and create the methane in a small, like, anaerobic digester as opposed to a gigantic incinerator. So I know that there's a waste advisory council, I guess, that's starting to get formed. So I think that you know, hopefully that'll give some different avenues. We'll look at a lot of different avenues and then bring back recommendations. And I would certainly consider all of those.
Okay, Dave?
Carroll County, as I'm sure you all know, is in an agreement with Frederick County through the Northeast Authority to fund and operate a waste energy plant to be located in Frederick. It's clear from the results of the last election and what's gone on over the last few years that the Carroll County citizens have no appetite for this project. Don't want it, and the current Board of Commissioners is just about is in negotiations to extract us from that contract at a minimum possible cost. But that still leaves us then with the question of what do we do with our trash? There is perhaps room to increase our recycling. There are many of the blue recycling bins throughout the distributed throughout the county, not just in the municipalities, and these often make it easier for recycling. But no matter where our recycling gets to, will not be taking care of all of our municipal waste. Right now, we're hauling it away, but I believe that the worst of all possible things we can do with our trash is put it in the ground. As an example, just from the modest amount that we landfill here at the Northern Landfill, we're hauling leachate from that, contaminated leachate from that facility 6 days a week, 6 loads a day, at a cost of over $600,000 a year. This is not necessarily the solution. I'm hopeful that we'll see other people in the private industry create waste-to-energy plants that will work, and we're also aware that there are some new technologies like pyrolysis that are being considered and could possibly offer us alternate solutions to this plan, and I look forward to utilizing them. Thank you.
Ken?
Unlike our current Commissioner of District 3, I oppose the waste-to-energy plan. The initial cost is $240 million to the county. We can't afford it. If you look at Harrisburg and its history, 20 years down the road after building theirs, the EPA came in and told them that they had to upgrade their plant, which is going to cost them millions of dollars. It literally bankrupted Harrisburg. Do we not think that the same thing would happen to us, that 20 years down the road that there's new technology that says there's a cleaner way for your plant to work, and that they would not do the same thing to us? It would cost us millions, 240 now and millions later. In addition, during the first year of this board, the commissioners they raised the rate at the county landfill. When they did that, the haulers quit coming. They had to turn around and lower the rate back down again. They weren't meeting the tonnage requirement that they had to ship the trash out of the state. From what I have researched, if we were to use the waste to energy, the fee to take the trash there would be higher than what it currently is. So again, why would the haulers go there if it's going to cost them more money? Now, currently the commissioners are being advised of different options to do with the waste. I understand there's about 5 different options. One of them is the land around the current facility in Westminster, to expand that, and that the owner is willing to work with them. Another is a process where certain materials will be extracted and used for recycling, sold to limit the waste. And there's about 3 others, and I'm not sure what they are. If we believe that the incinerator is such a great way to get rid of the trash and not put it into the ground, why don't we do that? Send it to Frederick, pay our money to go there with it, but not put the $240 million cost to the county. Thank you.
Lynn?
This subject deals with a very complicated contract. And as a commissioner, I believe it's due diligence of us to ensure that when we sign any kind of funding of taxpayer dollars, that we clearly understand the contract. This contract was it had a lot of misinformation in it. It had data that was incorrect in it. So therefore, we have no choice but to pull out of this contract. That's been stated over and over again, how much information was not correct. I believe in recycle. I recycle myself. Would I believe that you should be mandated to recycle? That's a debate for the Board of Commissioners. Future technology, right now we have a guy that is looking to do a waste management system up in Tawnytown. He's a private sector. It could be that that deal goes through and we don't have to fund any taxpayer dollars. We just have a place to send our trash, right? So I would say that we need to kind of back out. Our landfill, when I did the research on this like 1.5 years ago, it was good till 2065, our landfill, the way that we're operating it now, dropping off the bricks and sticks, and we're sending the trash up to Pennsylvania to another incinerator. So I would just stay with where we are now, see what happens with the technology, and see what happens with this private sector.
Okay, Matthew?
Well, I think that obviously this is not just here in Carroll County, but our way of dealing with waste is very primitive and very just outdated. It's been mismanaged and it's been undisciplined. And these characteristics are also somewhat in ourselves. You know, we're all kind of to blame as far as how much waste we use. But I think the most important thing would be to not put that necessarily on a major spending bill so that we could have some kind of convenient, incinerator. The expedient usually ends up being the most unfortunate. So I think that the best thing we could possibly do would be essentially to stay where we're at right now, and in time, if it becomes a major issue, like stuff's coming from the like from under the ground or something, like or we're up to our eyeballs, then that would be a time to but obviously that would be a horrible story for that to actually come to pass. But I think that it's very important that the public is in control, has at least a knowledge of what exactly is taking place with the waste, and that they be well informed as far as what the options are. I didn't necessarily know about the other, that there were 5 other options for what we could do with the waste, but I think that it's also kind of a horror story that we have to take leachant from this one, from our current one, and send it off to somewhere else, and there's all this, there's an awful lot of complexity to that, which I think is relatively unnecessary somewhat, and that if we could, cut the fat or simplify it even just a little bit, that would be somewhat beneficial. So that's my bit.
Dennis?
Yeah, I'm against the incinerator idea for several reasons. One is the cost. Second reason is in order to get the temperatures up high enough to actually produce any energy, you have to burn most recyclable materials. You have to burn the paper, you have to burn the plastics, which can be easily recycled. So that's 2 reasons to be against it. I'm more for a pay-to-throw idea. For pay-to-throw, if you look at trash collection now, it's the most unfair thing possible. Everyone basically pays the same amount, no matter how much garbage you throw away. Someone down the street with a family of 6 pays the same amount as a single person living here, if they're using the same hauler and so forth. Pay-to-throw, you pay according to how much you actually throw out. They have different size containers. You have a small container, a medium, and a large. And with a small container for throwing things out, you get a huge container for recycling, because the reverse will always happen. When pay-to-throw has been instituted in different municipalities throughout the country, it has never been stopped. Everyone uses it. No one's ever repealed it. In the first 6 months of using pay-to-throw in almost every municipality throughout the country, waste has gone down by 30%. That's in just 6 months, because people realize what they should be throwing away, what they should be recycling, what they can compost. I think it's a good alternative, requires no new technology. We have everything here to do it. We have the trash haulers that are ready to do this right now. Thank you.
Okay, May?
I have to say I like Dennis's plan. That's something I would definitely be interested in doing, because I know that my apartment, my roommates, we have a lot of trash, but we're also very big on recycling. Even though, of course, there's all those rumors, how much does recycling really do? We're also big proponents of whatever you don't need, donate it. Instead of throwing away clothes, throwing away shoes, give them to someone who might need them. They're, again, going back to nonprofits. There's a lot of nonprofits, maybe not in Carroll County, but definitely in the state of Maryland, that will take those donations and give them to people that need them across this country and in other countries across the world. So there are things that you can think of in your home that instead of throwing them away, you can give them away, and that could reduce waste. Generally recycling, I love paper towels. I'm probably not going to give that up. If you can give up paper towels, use a towel instead. I mean, these are things that we can recommend to our residents to help reduce waste. In addition to that, I think that we need to look ahead. I know that 2065 sounds kind of far away, but that's only 50 years, and I mean, I'll be around, and I don't want to know what happens to the landfill when it's full up. I think we need to focus on how we can reduce waste now, so that 2065 isn't a limit, so that we can keep that renewing and keep that going, so we can have these landfills for future generations as well. I think that, one of the things we need to focus on is, again, it seems pretty across the board that the incinerator project with Frederick County is a bust. Aside from, misinformation and the cost, I think that, the pollution effect from that would also be very high and very detrimental to our county, considering that we rely on our agriculture, our clean air, our clouds, our rain. We don't need more pollution in our county that could definitely harm our resources. So whatever other ideas we can come up with for waste management sound like a better plan than that. Thank you.
Okay, next question, we're going to start with Lynn and go that way from Ken and Dave, and then come back this way. If you had $10 million surplus at the end of the year, what would you do with it?
I'd give it back to the taxpayer.
Okay. Ken?
I don't think it's as easy as an answer as that. It is a good answer. I agree. When you start accumulating too much money, the citizens wonder why, and are we being overtaxed and not using the money properly. But there are times that you find as the year goes, certain projects may not require all that was requested for the funding, and you do have a surplus. I think that at that time you need to look at what other needs are still in the county. And if there are needs that have not been met, then switch some of those funds into that direction. Thank you.
Okay, Dave?
Well, it is. I think the commissioners found us hope that we end a year with surplus. We make our best efforts every year to estimate what our revenues are going to be and what our expenses, and we adopt a balanced budget. But then we work hard throughout the year to keep our expenses below what we project, and if we've been appropriately conservative in our estimates of revenue, we're probably going to get a little more revenue and end up with a surplus. In a large organization like a county government or a school system, it's appropriate that you plan that way, that you don't come to the end of the year and all of a sudden discover that instead of a couple of $1 million of excess, you're a couple of $1 million short. And you don't know how you're going to run your organization for the last month or so of that. But once you have a surplus, and every year we deal with a surplus from a previous fiscal year, it's appropriate that those be spent on one-time. It's one-time money, and it's most appropriate that it be spent on one-time expenditures, such as capital projects, fixing our roads and buying new equipment. Because if you spend your one-time money instituting new programs or hiring people that create ongoing costs, then where's the money going to come from next year and the year after that and the year after that to cover those programs and expenses? So you take that one-time money and put it into one-time needs, usually capital.
Maria?
It seems like government's the only place where it's bad to end up with a surplus at the end of the year. I mean, in our home, we hope that we have a surplus at the end of the year. I would think everybody budgets so they do have some savings at the end, and you're saving it for a rainy day or a snowy day in the case of this winter. But so if there is a surplus, like some of the others said, I would look at, well, first I'd look at, why there was the surplus. Was there a miscalculation in the budget from that year, and should the things need to be adjusted for the following year? There's been talk already tonight about the need for more technology, more high-speed internet, that sort of thing. Can it go towards building, towards building the fiber optic line? Could it go towards the school system? And certainly, could it also look at, should it go back to the taxpayers? I don't think it would be one simple one answer fits all. Each year it might be a little different where that surplus would go. There's roofs on the school systems, on the county buildings that need work. There's a whole bunch of roads out there that have been damaged from the winter. So I think it would be a matter of sitting down and look at why there was the surplus, where it came from, and where it best can be spent.
Okay, thank you. Matthew?
If there were to be a surplus of 10,000? 10
million.
10 million, okay. If there was a surplus of 10 million, I think that, what I would try to do is to get your opinion about what it should be, where that money should go, and try to put that into whatever thing seemed to be the most rational or seemed to be the most reasonable thing that the people themselves propose. I personally don't really have any interest in money as far as even just campaigning and things like that. I actually intend to give about 2/3 of my paycheck to the community, essentially through various the nonprofits and things of that sort, different community projects. And so if there were a $10 million surplus, I mean, my gosh, what could be done with that amount of money? Very simple things, in my opinion, I think would be maybe greenhouses or some kind of local garden kind of initiative or something of that sort. That would be very minimal cost, but that wouldn't even cover $10 million. So I think that the people would be the best disposed to decide where that surplus would go and how it should be used. So that's my opinion.
Okay, Dennis?
Okay, first, I'd like to know if it is just one-time money. You're going to have the same tax rate and possibly the same expenditures year after year, or somewhat close. You have to analyze why you have an extra $10 million. Then if the $10 million is going to be coming every year without raising taxes or anything else, then I would try to use that money to fully fund the schools, the police department, and nonprofits.
Okay, May?
I've been having issues with my mic, so I'm going to try to do better this time. You know, if we had a $10 million surplus, we must be doing something right, coming in under budget that much. I think everyone likes to come in under budget at the end of the year. If this is a hypothetical situation where we have to spend the money on something and can't just save it for the next fiscal year for emergency situations, you never know when we're going to have a hurricane that decides to come this far inland and destroy 15 buildings. It'd be nice to have a little bit of a savings for the county for emergency management. But if we would have to spend it, one of the projects that I would love to see Carroll County do is to create windmills. You can get grants through the government, through the EPA to do this, to build more windmills in Carroll County. I know we've got some up towards Hampstead, and gift them to the public schools so they can use them to pay for their electrical costs, which are astronomical. If you didn't know, public schools cost a lot of money to keep running. And that would be something that would be a short-term project that would have long-term effects for the county by providing the schools with a sustainable energy source so they can better use the money that they are spending on electricity on something that is actually important, like funding clubs and athletics for the students so that they can have a better chance at getting scholarships for college, for funding field trips so they can have cultural enrichment at the many museums and theaters in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. These are the kind of things I think the money should be going towards, not paying the electric bill. So that would be something that I'd like to see $10 million go to.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question, we're going to start with Ken, and we'll work down toward Maria and then come back this way. Sea levels are rising in the Chesapeake Bay area through both additional heating due to climate change and land subsidence from the last ice age. Carroll County is non-contiguous with the bay. What civic obligation do you see as Carroll County's responsibility, ostensibly to the state as a whole?
This question was asked the other night, and I think that there's a flawed assumption in there with climate change itself. We go through cycles. We have warming. We have colder times. So if part of it mentioned was, I believe, in the pollution. And I don't think that we have large corporations here in the county that are being unresponsible. If there are, they've been addressed in the past and they continue to work on it. But as for the climate change issue, I think that's a flawed statement. That's
okay. Dave?
Well, without getting into an extended debate over the science, flawed as it is, about the climate change, the issue is in a more general sense. If the state has environmental or water quality or stormwater management problems, should every part of the state contribute to this solution? And the answer, of course, is yes. We're part of the state of Maryland, just as we expect all the citizens of Carroll County to be supportive of our efforts to provide clean water in Tawnytown and Sykesville, and as well as Westminster and Hampstead. We do have a responsibility to do our part to help be responsible stewards of the state on a statewide basis. It can't all just fall to the few counties who say, for instance, are along the shoreline of the bay. So we do have an overall responsibility. The bigger issue is what's the problem and what's the science and what are real solutions. Currently, there are a number of solutions that are being offered, and numerous regulations relating to pollution and issues of the bay. Most of them scientifically flawed. We had the septic regulations that were supposed to be helpful to the bay. I live on a property with a well and septic. My septic doesn't pollute my well. It's within 100 feet of the well, but somehow my septic system is considered to be polluting the Chesapeake Bay 40 miles away. I think that's absurd. But in the same time, people continue to ignore the millions and millions of tons of sediment and pollution that pour over the Conowingo Dam in any hard storm. So I think we have to focus, we have to work together throughout the state, but focus on real solutions to real problems.
Maria?
Yeah, the question seemed to be, I guess, a two-part question, and I guess I'll take the second part about our, what our responsibility is to the state, the environment overall, and even discounting, the whole, like you said, the argument about climate change and all. Green energy just makes sense. They mentioned the windmills. You can have solar panels. You can have, any type of coal, oil. It's all finite resources, eventually. And the more that we can do to save money by going to solar, by going to other types of energy, just makes sense from an economic standpoint, from a physical standpoint. As far as stormwater runoff, yes, there's the bay issue and whether or not the Conowingo Dam would clean up, take care of the bay, but we have local streams. We have local streams that are impaired and don't support a healthy fish population. And, do we care about that? Do we want our kids to be able to, or maybe my grandkids, to fish in the future? So it's not just a state issue, it's do we care about our own county and the environment here?
Okay, Lynn?
This science has had an enormous regulatory challenge for our farmers, which is the fabric of our community for many, many years. So if we have this problem with the farmers that can't farm because of the climate change and regulatory and everything like that, that's going to have an impact on our revenue. So what I would suggest, what my plan would be, is to really talk to the farming community, because they have a lot of the answers and they have a lot of the TMDLs that we could maybe reduce in our county and meet the requirements of what the science is for the state of Maryland, what they're seeing. So that's how I would work it. I'd talk to the farming community.
Matthew?
Well, I like a lot of the ideas that I've heard so far. I think that as far as the pollution issue, as far as especially the Chesapeake Bay, or even the issue of global warming, I think that as far as our ability to control that, that's kind of a super awesome force of nature kind of thing, and it's not necessarily anything we can do about it. But as far as the pollution, prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light or transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they're accustomed. That's a quote from the Declaration of Independence. This is, I think, a fundamental issue where we need to change the forms to which we are accustomed. Now, granted, a people guided by conveniences and money are less disposed to change, or they are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing those forms. I think a lot of the issues come from the standard method of farming, which is actually something that was created in the relative present. The use of fertilizers and pesticides and so forth is something that's relatively new. And I think that something like organic farming honestly has a lot more answers to that issue than do any kind of attempt to bandage the wound that's been created by those pollutants. Not to mention the factories that are involved in creating them as well. So as far as our role, Carroll County is very much a rural county, and I would like to see a return in some way, shape, or form to more natural methods of farming. Now, obviously, that's not practical, but that's my view. So, thank you.
Dennis?
Well, I think we have to work together with the state if there's a problem like this occurring. Just as municipalities and the county work together when there's a problem. We shouldn't fight the state at every turn because everything that they send down, we're all in this together. So if there's a problem with sea level rising, then we have to work with the state for that. I think a couple things we can do in Carroll County is make sure all new public buildings are LEED certified buildings. And I also think that if, when actable, we can put solar panels on public buildings in Carroll County. So it would reduce our dependence on energy reduce greenhouse gases. And whether you believe in global warming or not, both those things will save the county lots of money. Thank you.
May?
I think, you know, a lot of us, some of us believe in climate change, some of us don't. That's okay, unaffiliated for a reason. Do we have the research capacity and the ability in Carroll County to really affect climate change? No. We don't have, you know, the government offices that, you know, NASA or the Climatology Institute has to kind of research these ways. However, we can take their advice. That's something that we can easily do. I think that, you know, listening to the Environmental Protection Agency, listening to the ideas that the state of Maryland gives to reduce stormwater runoff and help keep the health of our bay intact is very important for us as well, because we're all connected. One of my favorite quotes from my travels to Peru is this old Peruvian man saying to me that the earth is all one water. And that means basically we're all connected together. And I think that's something very important that we should remember here, that our water goes into the ocean and then comes right back to us someday. And that's something that we can affect together. I think that we also need to realize that we can make a real change. I think our, you know, cue can be taken from the fact that our government didn't decide to be part of the Kyoto Accord for many reasons. And they don't really have the strong forefront on the international level in global climate awareness and global climate care, not necessarily change, but we as a county could take the steps to be more energy efficient, which goes along with windmill ideas and solar ideas and farming practices and building codes that can help reduce our waste and reduce our water runoff. I think that as far as the sea levels rising in Maryland, that would greatly affect our Bay Area, our lower cities, and I think you have a duty as citizens of Maryland, not just citizens of Carroll County, to help with that problem.
Okay, thank you. I'll start this next one with Dave, go to Maria, and then come back this way, okay? Given that the current population of students attending Carroll County Public Schools has declined and is expected to remain low for some years, the current commissioners voted not to collect an impact fee from property developers at this time. Do you agree or disagree with this position, and why?
Well, as one of those commissioners that took that action, I certainly do agree. But let me point out, there's a law that permits the levying of impact fees. And the law that permits the levying of those impact fees is related, says you can level an impact fee based upon your need for additional school capacity. After some years of not having any new school capacity related projects, and after consulting the Carroll County Public School System's master plan for any new capacity-related construction, it became clear that there was not the reason to collect an impact fee. Additionally, you're not allowed to get those fees and hold them by virtue of the laws that allow them, and just so, because maybe someday you might use them, you're also not allowed to use them for things that aren't capacity related within your school system, or to collect the school impact fee and use it on parks. These are all legal issues. So because there was no school capacity projects being proposed or in the near term, coming up in the future within the time limit that we had to spend that money, it was appropriate for us to discontinue that impact fee. And by the way, we didn't discontinue it, we just lowered the rate to 0, which you might say is the same thing, but the fee is there and can be readily adjusted when the capacity-related projects return to our school system's master plan.
Okay, thank you. Maria?
So maybe this is a moot point if the law doesn't allow one to be collected, but if the law were to allow one, you know, if the law could be revised slightly, I do think it makes sense to charge maybe not as much as what was being charged, but some sort of impact fee for new homes, not if someone's coming in and buying an existing home, but for new homes, because they do add expense to the county. And with the schools, we're not building new ones, but there's ones that were recently built that are costing money. I assume we have debt service on them, and maybe the law could be changed to use that impact fee to reduce that, such as for Manchester Valley. That's a school that was paid for 100% by the county because the state recognized that the numbers weren't going to be there, that it didn't make sense to build it in the location that it's in, and the state, wisely refused to go along with paying for that. So maybe the impact fee could be used to help with debt service for the existing schools that we did build with the expectation that they were going to be filled. But again, it sounds like there would have to be a law change to do that, but I would see if that could be done.
Okay, we'll swing down to May and then work toward Ken.
I'll admit I don't know a lot about impact fees. I don't have much experience in that, not being a construction builder for new homes or a new homeowner or a homeowner in general. But I do think that if it is a source of revenue for the county, then it is something that needs to be reevaluated, considering that we are in debt. And again, with the new school being built in Manchester Valley, those are things that we should be funding. I think that this question also leads to another problem about the fact that the current population of schools has declined and it's not going upwards. We have at least 2 schools that are way under enrollment, and if that's impacting these new home builders and these impact fees, I think we should put a moratorium on new homes being built. I understand that that leads to a loss of some jobs in the county, but that's something you need to think about, is if you don't have new people coming in, new families coming in, why are you building new houses that are sitting there empty? And there are houses here sitting there empty. So I think that this is something that needs to be remedied by bringing in jobs. First, you need to focus on bringing in new jobs, making our infrastructure better, and from there, talk about building new homes and getting our school population back up, and then you can have the impact fees again for the taxes for our county budget.
Dennis?
Okay, impact fees were put in effect to pay for the infrastructure that supports new development. Whether it's one new house or 100 new houses, the impact fee is collected to pay for roads, for fire, for police, for schools, parks, recs, water, sewer. That's what it's for. Every new house has an impact on those things. Therefore, you should collect the impact fee on new houses and new development. If you're just buying a house that's already built in Carroll County, no impact fee because it's not a new house. But we do need the impact fees collected to pay for the impact of those people coming to the county. Why should the existing taxpayers have to pay for all of it? Thank you.
Matthew?
Well, I definitely have to similarly admit that I do not know enough about this specific issue to really be able to, delve into it very deeply. But I would say that as far as, any kind of fees, myself, I'm not a big government person. So as far as I'm concerned, I would like to do whatever I could to, not new houses, I guess, but just on the homeowner themselves to reduce any kind of onerous taxation that I possibly could. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay, Lynn?
Okay, anytime that you can eliminate a tax or a fee to a citizen, I'm all for it. Ted Zaleski recommended this to the Board of County Commissioners because of the law and because of the plan presented by the Board of Education's Facilities Master Plan. So it was only sensible that you can't collect money and then turn around and 3 years later try to give it back to the people that would have paid that fee because it would not have been used. So I say stick to the plan and keep it eliminated until such time that it would have a use for impacting our services.
Okay, for this next question, we'll let Matthew.
Excuse me, Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Let me clarify something first of all. Impact fees can only be used for 2 things, education and parks and recreation. That's it. Second, what Dave said is correct. The impact fee can only be used for the construction of new schools when there is a growth in the student population. Since we show a projection of the student population declining for the next 10 years, it does not make sense to have a fee on residents that we cannot use. In addition, the impact fee impact fee cannot be used for the construction of a new career and technology center, which I think that we should look at. I've asked that question specifically, and I was told that we cannot use impact fees for that because it's not new growth. So if we can only use those funds when there is a student population growth, and we are in a decline of that population right now, and if we can't use those fees for the Career and Technology Center, it doesn't make any sense to collect a fee that we can't use. And I would keep the fee at zero until we see the opportunities for that in the future. Thank you.
Okay. For this next question, we'll let Matthew start, and we'll come back this way, and then go to Maria and come back to Lynn. Okay? The current commissioners have set aside $400,000 in the Educational Opportunity Fund for those that homeschool or send their children to private or religious schools. Do you agree or disagree with the policy of using taxpayer money to subsidize these organizations? Explain.
I mean, that's kind of I mean, they're a part of our community, so in a sense, I guess they, you know, it is something that would be beneficial somewhat to their, you know, they're educating their own children. I don't know necessarily how much these people are getting individually, and I don't know the exact number of how many people actually homeschool their children here. So I don't know if that number is necessarily appropriate for the actual thing that it's doing. I would say that as far as $400,000, that is, I think, something that it's a kind of complicated issue. Obviously, the parents that do homeschool their children, they don't need to have government kind of breathing down their neck as far as what their children are being taught. I think that every homeschooling should be more or less something that's kind of freedom in that, and I think that's an important aspect to our society, is people not being educated, some people to not be educated by the government school system, the government approved school system, for there to be a variance as far as, or a diversity. But I think that it's very important that obviously these people have some kind of, you don't know necessarily, I mean, obviously some of these people may have, like, you know, a $10,000 per year kind of salary, so that could be very detrimental to their own children's growth. I guess it would be more something that would have to do on a situation by situation basis for how they get funded. But I think that it is important that that we look at this issue as far as just, you know, not willy-nilly throwing money at parents and their children. As far as like I said, we don't need to have government breathing down their neck. I think that they should have the freedom to do whatever they want with their children's education. So, no, I would not necessarily promote that.
Okay, Dennis?
Okay, the only way that I would be for the $400,000 for homeschooling in private schools is if all the other things in the county were adequately funded. If we adequately fund the schools, the police, the fire, the roads, the infrastructure, the parks, the recs, the libraries, everything the local government's supposed to do, and then we had extra money, I'd be all for it. Because those people who send their kids to private schools or homeschool, they pay county taxes too. But only if everything else has been fully and adequately funded first, will I be for paying $400,000 to reimburse them.
May?
Kind of along the same lines, I know there's two sides to this question. It's a public service, so why get public funding? But at the same point, parents and these private schools are located on county property. They're paying county taxes, so they're entitled to those same benefits that their children would receive in public schools. I think that giving funding to homeschools especially is a great idea because a lot of times parents pull their kids out of school for, you know, there's a multitude of reasons, whether or not they have a sickness that prohibits them from going to school. They're entitled to that same education, and yes, the county has programs that can help these children. However, a lot of parents see that sometimes their needs aren't being met. So I think we have a duty to help every child receive a fair education. In Carroll County, I think that we have a pretty good school system. My aunt pulled her 2 boys out of schools in New Hampshire because they did not have a good school system. So I think we're pretty fortunate about the fact that we do have a multitude of good teachers and good administrators and good progress in our education. Like I mentioned in my intro speech, you know, we have a 92% graduation rate, which is above the 86% for the state of Maryland. So, I mean, that really says something. In addition to that, I've been tutoring a girl for 3 years who goes to a Carroll County public school, and I can see why some parents might want to take their kids out of public schools. There are some things that I've had to teach her that I thought, you know, every student should just know, like, you know, the fact that Canada is to the north and Mexico is to the south, and she is not a dumb girl. She is very bright. These are things that just didn't get covered, and I think that that's something that's lacking in the education system. So I understand why parents would send their students to private school. I went to private school, and I'm very fortunate for that. Granted, it was on the church bill, not on my parents' bill, but it's something that I got a better education because of that. I think that if we can provide that opportunity to all children, we have a requirement within ourselves to do that.
Okay, Maria?
Okay, I'm against the Equal Opportunity Fund for the $400,000 of taxpayer dollars going to only a very small segment of our children. It was mentioned that they should have the same benefits as the public school kids. This money goes to pay for tutoring, it goes to pay for SAT tests, it goes to pay for AP exams, it goes to pay for sports equipment, it goes to pay for computers, all things that I paid for when my children, or my husband helped pay for, when my children were in public school. There's children in the public schools that don't have computers at home. There's children that can't afford to go pay for a field trip, and we're going to pay for lacrosse equipment for someone that goes to a private school that maybe makes $200,000. I think it's wrong. I think the school should be fully funded before any money is diverted away from the school systems for something like this, especially the way it was set up. I've talked to people who don't even realize it's taxpayer money because they set it up so that the community foundation is the conduit. People don't even realize it's coming from the taxpayers. I've had people ask me, well, why shouldn't donations be made and help out homeschoolers and private school kids? They live here. But this money is not going to pay tuition. It's not going to pay any expenses that other families don't have as well. The money should be available to any child in the county. If it's going to be allowed, then it should be available to every child in the county that has these needs. There's no criteria right now for this funds. Anybody can, no matter what your income is, you can go in and get up to $1,000 simply for supplying receipts. You could buy the computer, might not even keep it in your home. I'm not saying people would be dishonest, but there's very few checks and balances on the fund, and it's not available to all.
Okay, Dave?
Well, I would dispute that that there's no checks and balances, and and nobody pays attention, and that it could be used for anything. We just today had a report from the Community Foundation on how those funds are being used. But this was an attempt to assist those people who aren't in the public school system, who choose not to be in the public school system, but yet pay the taxes that to be able to afford the educational opportunity that they think best for their children. There are many reasons that parents and children choose alternates to the public school system, and yet they pay taxes just as everybody else does. And this is, I think, a modest attempt to assist those people in that effort for which they're paying anyhow, and at a much lower cost to the citizens of this county.
Okay, Ken?
I adamantly disagree with the Educational Opportunity Fund. Its name sounds good, but let me share with you why I disagree. If a person decides to send their child to a private school or to homeschool their child, I applaud that. We should all have a complete say in what our child's education is, and for one reason or another, public school might not be the right choice for you, but that's what it is. It's a choice. These dollars are being used to reimburse people for those who have children that attend private schools or are homeschooled for extra expenses, like field trips, My children go to public school. For years, I have sent tissues and scissors into the school. I don't know why we have to keep sending scissors. I don't know where they disappear to. I can understand not using the tissues again. But we pay for field trips, and we pay for them to have the privilege to play in sports or music items or classes that they have. We pay for those things as well. And I feel it's a special interest fund. I do not use CATS, which the county funds. So does that mean that we should have a transportation opportunity fund for those that choose not to use CATS and reimburse them for driving their own cars? Do we create a fund for seniors that do not have children at all because their tax dollars go to something that they might not benefit from? Where does it end? In addition, when the county spends tax dollars, we know where those dollars go. We can look at it, we can track it, and we can know. These dollars were turned over to a separate entity. We have no way of following that money. So for these reasons, I disagree with the Educational Opportunity Fund.
Okay, Lynn?
I agree with the Educational Opportunity Fund, and actually I was one of the staffers at the Board of County Commissioners that helped put the policy together and worked with Audrey Simoneau at the foundation that took that money. We did calculations at that time that showed that the children in our community that were not attending public school were saving about $2 million of tax dollars that weren't going to the Board of Education that they would need if they did attend. So we given them a modest $400,000 when it would have cost you $2 million, and their children in our community. Again, I go back to community. We have to embrace that these children will be our job creators. They'll be working in our community. They'll be in your backyard, and they need to have the funds to be educated equally as the public school. And they're not even close to being equal because we spend about $6,100 per student to educate them in the public school, and this is just, it's an easy math equation, I believe, and I also believe that as a parent, although I've used the Carroll County Public School System for all 4 of my children, I went through the Carroll County Public School System. It's a great system, it's a superior system, but I also believe that you will find that many of the administrators that work in the system send their kids to private school. They don't use that system. And they're not utilizing this fund. This is for people that have a need for this fund. And we've had an economic tsunami hit us in the past 5 years, and we want our kids to be educated, and if they need a little help, it's a one-time fund, $400,000. Audrey's going to make it grow, and we shouldn't revisit it again. That's all.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to our last question for the evening, and my understanding is that the other questions the candidates will have opportunity to respond to. So everyone's question will be answered. So Dennis, you're first up on this one. We'll go to May and then down to Maria to finish up, coming this way. Given that Carroll County is a bedroom community, response time for volunteer fire departments and ambulance servants can be an issue during the work week. What steps might you take to reduce this problem?
Thanks for putting me first on that one. I guess anything we can do to reduce that problem is have a better infrastructure with the streets and roads and so forth. So the people in the bedroom community who leave Carroll County every morning to go to work and then come back in the evening and use the roads that are packed, maybe at the roads where, I don't know, other roads or other places for the fire department, police department to go through to respond so we have more access to it. So anything I can think of. Thank you.
Okay. May?
Can you repeat the question for me?
Given that Carroll County is a bedroom community, that means a lot of people commuting, response time for volunteer fire departments and ambulance service can become an issue during the work week. What steps might you take to reduce this problem?
See, the first time I heard veteran community, and I was like, how does this connect? But bedroom community makes much more sense. I think that, again, it comes to, how much cluster of traffic we have. Commuting from Baltimore and back, for instance, once you hit 140 coming back, a lot of times if there is an emergency in town, those roads are blocked, and how do you create more thoroughfares? I think that 140 was kind of poorly planned from the beginning. To handle the amount of traffic that needs to leave our county, specifically in Westminster. I think that also having more of a city approach to emergency stoplights. I think that there could be an opportunity for us to use an advanced light system so that it's programmable. It's a software that you can literally download to the city infrastructure, where if there's a fire call on West Main Street and the fire truck down the street has to get there, it stops. It either gets the lights to go so that the fire truck can head in that direction, or it turns them the other way so the fire truck can head the other direction, depending on where the emergency is. Yes, that can cause some traffic problems. And again, it's not necessarily the best solution, but considering how small our streets are, it may actually help with the response times, because the last thing we need is a tragedy caused by traffic.
Okay, Maria?
I think this issue actually is probably one of the so-called sleeping giants in the budgets maybe not this year, but in the years to come. There definitely is becoming staffing problems with the all-volunteer fire departments, and are we going to have to start looking at potentially having to have more paid people? We have paid EMTs, and we aren't the community that we were 40 or 50 years ago, where most people worked in the area. We have a lot of commuters. Part of it would be, I guess, based on economic development, which we didn't have time to touch on tonight, but try to keep more people working closer to home so they don't have that hour and a half commute each way. What kind of, we have, folks driving, I know, to Rockville and to Woodlawn for federal jobs. Is there a way to bring some kind of, even if it's a telework center here, where people can work at home 1 or 2 days a week or at a center, so they're not commuting every single day at least. But I think it is something that is going to have to take some leadership and really be discussed in upcoming budgets. It's the reality is whether or not we truly can keep the volunteer system that we have, based on the cost of, even as a volunteer, the cost of training. You have to go and get trained. It's a year and a half from the time you decide you even want to do it until you can be trained to ride on a truck. So it definitely is an issue that we haven't heard a lot about, but it's going to be forthcoming.
Dave?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure.
So I'm sure I got it right here.
Given that Carroll County is a bedroom community, response time for volunteer fire departments and ambulance service can be an issue during the work week. What steps might you take to reduce this problem?
Okay, well, I think one of the very special and important places that people have for community service is the volunteer fire service. We've had this in place in this county for many years. These men and women do a fantastic job, and it's the way that they're committed to help their communities. As time has gone by, and people have a tendency perhaps to not always work in the local community, it has, I know, put a strain on all of the fire departments to provide proper manning for every emergency call. But they do it, and it's a tremendous not only a tremendous service to our community, but I think it is a tremendous benefit to the people who participate in that service. I think we need to do everything we can to support the volunteer fire service. I think I'm aware that some employers, such as Lehigh, when I worked there, were very supportive and made time available and for the workers to participate in that service. And I think we should be looking for ways to encourage employers to provide opportunities for as many of their people as possible to participate in this vital service, and it's a way that many of our people contribute to the service of the community that perhaps they wouldn't have an opportunity to do otherwise. And I fully support our volunteer fire service and hope we can continue it for some time.
Okay, Ken?
We have to first understand what this question is. There is a push to move to a paid fire department. I think that our volunteer fire department and those working there are doing a fantastic job, as well as our sheriff's department. We currently have paid EMT and a driver 24/7 at every station. We have 6 municipalities that have police forces that work on a part-time basis, 2 that work on a full-time basis. The sheriff's department is at its infancy as being the law enforcement agency of the county, and I'm sure as they look at what the needs are, they will adjust to where they have to be. Communication is a large part of the efficiency of our fire departments and our agencies. The county is in the process of upgrading to a digital communication system to fill into those areas. Since I have a few seconds left, and this is our last question, I do want to mention that I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't talk about some more important issues. These were good ones, but we should have talked about taxes. We should have spoken about the sheriff's pension. We should have spoken about a question asked about public transportation. We should have spoken about some controversial issues such as prayer. We should have spoken about open government. We should have spoken about education and funding education. We should have spoken about economic development and how we feel that we should have economic development in this country to take the burden off of the citizens and the homeowners. We should have spoken about the airport expansion. Those are some things I would hope that we would have spoken about, and I would be very happy to speak to anyone about those issues later on. Thank you.
Okay, Lynn?
I didn't know that there was any kind of issue with response time. So really, I guess I would defer to CC Visa to make recommendations of what they believe would be the best way if they thought that there were times that were not being met. So that's really, I would defer to the professionals in that. So.
Okay.
Well, I think that it's important to have if there is an issue with response time, then it is important to, obviously the roads, the situation with the infrastructure, but also working alongside the sheriff's department if there is like a serious emergency and they can't get to where they have to go. Obviously, coordination with the sheriff's department would be an important issue. I think it's also important that the actual community, that we actually promote people being employed by the firefighters, the volunteer firefighters, that people actually do volunteer for that. So I think whatever we could possibly do to get more people into that position, I think that's a good idea as well. I think that there is a big issue as far as the infrastructure here. I mean, the roads kind of do have a lot of, especially after this past winter, a lot of cracks and a lot of just they need to be patched up or they need to be fixed altogether. And so, yeah, I think that this issue is, if it does become something of a problem, then it needs to be solved by things like organization and through infrastructure, and the fundamental problems that cause them need to be examined by the professionals, and listening to those people and listening to the people themselves, so that we can come to some realistic conclusions as to what we can possibly do to solve that problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to move into the 2-minute summary, and I think we started with May, so we'll start down at the far end with Maria. So you have 2 minutes to summarize your candidacy.
Okay, 2 minutes. Well, actually, I agree with what Ken just said, that there were a lot of questions that weren't asked that I'd love to share my ideas and my thoughts and my opinions with you on. It's not the fault. I mean, there's a lot of us up here, and the League of Women Voters and Carroll Media Center. You know, I want to thank you all for for offering this opportunity at least. I don't know if we'd have a second one, that would be a lot, but you know, I'd be available to talk to anyone who wants to talk in any kind of setting. But I thought for my closing, I was actually looking, the other day I was researching some facts and figures, and I came upon this really neat video that was produced in 1968. It's called The Carroll County Story, and it's out on, I found it on YouTube, and it was a helicopter ride of the whole county and talked about all the different manufacturing facilities that used to be here, from Mother Goose shoes to high-end men's suits, that did keep people local. But I just wanted to share what hopefully I can do it in a minute. I wanted to share what Bennett Cerf actually said at the dedication of Random House, and it's in that film, when it was first built up on 27. Why did we come here? First, we came here because of the incredible cooperation we received from all the people we met in this area, and we are availing ourselves of all the things you have to offer, and I'm sure it's going to be a very happy marriage. Not only a wonderful location, central location, wonderful road facilities, the Western Maryland Railroad running right past our door, Western Maryland College, which we hope will supply us with some of the more brilliant people we need to operate this thing successfully. All of this is right here at your doorstep. When we decided to move our warehouse from New York City, we examined sites all over the East Carroll County had more to offer than any of the other two put together. And that's where I aim to be as commissioners, to continue that vision.
Dave?
This is our closing statements, right?
This is closing,
okay.
Yeah.
The past couple of months, I've talked with many people, from the Greens to Ridgeview to downtown. I met a woman who expressed the fear that increasing property taxes would force her to move out of Carroll County. As the state continues to deal with its fiscal mismanagement by forcing costs onto already lean county budgets, there is only one way to prevent property taxes from becoming an intolerable burden to Carroll County homeowners. We must increase our economic tax base by increasing economic development. Carroll County needs more business to relieve the pressure on property taxes and to provide jobs for our citizens. We need to grow the businesses we have and bring new ones in. Carroll County, like governments at all levels, faces severe fiscal problems. Effectiveness must be increased, efficiencies found, and costs cut. I have many years of private business experience doing just that. I've worked hard to serve you well the past 3.5 years as your commissioner, improving county government, respecting your property rights, and beginning to improve our economic development. This experience gives me a unique background for handling problems and making necessary decisions. We've made substantial investments in preparing our children and grandchildren to be productive citizens. I believe we also need to be sure that they can get a job and make a home right here in Carroll County. I bring to you the experiences of a lifetime of leadership in business, community service, and government. I offer you proven leadership in creating common sense solutions. There is a lot we can do for Carroll County by working together. I need your help and your vote on June 24th. Thank you.
Ken?
One item I meant to mention that I missed was ag preservation as well. I think that we should have had, I wished we would have had an opportunity to speak about that. If elected as your next commissioner, my focus is going to be on the county and not issues I have no control over. As a commissioner, our biggest responsibility is the budget and the agencies it funds, such as education, public safety, infrastructure, and nonprofits. I will ensure that that is what my focus is. I am qualified to do this because of my background of being a business owner. When you are a business owner, you look at the entire picture. You look at the whole, not just the one area that you've been assigned to work on. And you need to know how to market, how to work with people. I have clients that are very small, and I have a client that is the largest funded agency in this country. I know how to work with people, and I know how to stay focused. I am asking for your vote on June 24th because I am the best candidate here this evening that has a full understanding of the issues facing the county. I'm asking for your vote because I care about the future of our county, and I am running for the right reasons. I want to ensure you that our government is working, that I will I will have our government, that my focus is on an efficient and a fiscally sound manner without jeopardizing the values we hold and the services needed in the county that make us the great place to live that we know Carroll to be. I have shared with you my thoughts this evening. It's not all of them, but I've been very specific, and I know that, and I hope that you understand that I did not skirt any issues. I feel we are at a crossroads in our county government right now, and your vote on June 24th will decide what direction we take. I ask you to visit my webpage, kennethmercer.com, and you will find out more on those issues and more about me. I am one of only 2 candidates here at this table tonight that I believe has a website and has been willing to put up their ideas. I think that you will find that mine is more detailed and not vague. Again, I want to thank you for coming out here this evening. Please vote Ken Mercer, June 24th. Thank you.
Okay, Lynn?
Well, I always did say for the past 4 years that knowledge is power. And for the past 4 years, I've been educating myself on the county government. I've watched the open session every week. I've talked to a commissioner every week. I'm involved. I want to know where our money is going, how it's being spent, where it's being banked. I found the Board of Education's fund balance and alerted a commissioner to that, which brought out, $15.5 million worth of surplus last year. I wonder what our commissioner is doing. If he didn't see it, it's been there accumulating for 5 years. This is where I go. I follow the money, and I want to know where our dollars are being spent. Is it needed or is it wanted? So as your commissioner, that's what I would do. I would follow the money and ensure you that we don't have pockets of $18 million of stabilization fund if we run out of a surplus, that, or $70 million that's sitting in a investment that they roll out and replenish. And it's all in this book, guys. I just want you to know, this is our bank book right here. And the comptroller is a very nice guy. He will talk to you. He will help you understand it. Government accounting is not easy to follow, but I've been trying to educate myself on it, and I believe that I should be the next commissioner for you so that we can follow the money and make sure that we have a sound community in our future. So vote Lynn Malik on June 24th. Thanks.
Okay, Matthew?
I'd just like to say, I guess to really kind of clarify my position on things, that I'm not a politician, and my interest isn't necessarily in the money as far, certainly in the sense that Lynn was talking about, following the money, but my interest is not the money, the getting of money, or the ability to reap some kind of benefit from, a corporate dollar. I am, like I said, a philosopher, and I believe that the simplicity is the epitome of sophistication, and that it's important that we refine or restore certain aspects of this county that were those parts that were alluring to the people who have come here, which was the quietness, the rural parts of this area. And I think that those are the most important way to get people into this area, and I think that those are the most cherishable things about it. I think education is fundamentally important, and that to forsake education as far as our concerns, or even just developing our education or improving it, would be very imprudent of us to do. So my view primarily would consist of the education system and the economic issues that we will face. I think that a lot of our issues are because of the commuting nature, the nature of our commuting community. That a lot of people, that it is a bedroom community, and that we need to bring more local jobs, and we need to bring more actual local businesses into this area. So that's my view.
Okay, Dennis?
Okay, first I'd like to start off by saying, just because I'm asked this continuously, I am in no way related to Commissioner Robin Bartlett Frazier. The only thing we have in common is the spelling of our last name. Then I'd like to continue by paraphrasing Tocqueville, who wrote Democracy in America over 200 years ago. He said that people in this country do not get out and act unless it directly affects them. And that by the time they get out and act and take action, it's too late. Someone has already made the decision for them. I believe we're at a tipping point in this county. We can keep going the route that we're going right now, which I believe is downward, which will take, in my opinion, years and years to recover from, or we can make a change and go upward. Let your voice be heard on June 24th, which is the primary election. Don't let other people decide it for you. I don't think we can take another 4 years of the current Board of Commissioners. We need a change of ideas. We need a change of people. Please consider me, Dennis Frazier, for District 3 Commissioner when you go out and vote on June 24th. Thank you.
May?
Thank you all for being here this evening. I know I don't know everything, which I openly admitted about the impact fees question, but if anybody here does know everything, you should have been up here tonight, not the other way around. What I do have is a lot of great ideas, and I have the drive to make them happen, and I have the energy to see long-term projects through to the end to help us create a more sustainable future for Carroll County. I think that the important things that needed to be talked about tonight were job growth, education funding, standards of education, the safety and the economic health of our community. We wish we'd touched on that more, but there will be an opportunity for us to answer more questions online thanks to the Community Media Center, the Carroll County Times. I'd also like to say that I am a petition candidate, which means I have to do more work than the rest of them. No kidding, just kidding. They do a lot of work. I have to collect like 1,000, so 10% of the registered voters in Carroll County, which is 117,000, so about 1,170 signatures. So if you want to sign my petition, you don't have to vote for me. That doesn't mean you have to vote for me. It just helps me get on the general election ballot on November 4th, which I would greatly appreciate. I'm young. This is my first step into politics. I'm really enjoying it, and I'd like to continue it by being able to be on the election ballot, so I have to submit that by August 4th. So everyone, please take one of my flyers in the lobby that says May Alexander for County Commissioner and contact me. I'll come to you. I'll bring the form. You just sign it. We can talk. If you want to come over, I make a really good cup of tea. Whatever you want to do. I want to finish by quoting Sir Thomas More in Utopia by saying that the government works for the people, not the other way around. And that's one of the things that I really want to do by having open communication with all of you. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank all of our candidates, and I wish you all well. I know that only one of you will ultimately be satisfied with the outcome, but I wish you all well. I want to thank Paul Kazak for being our moderator this evening. He's very graciously come to do that for us. I want to thank my League of Women Voters and my citizen friends who have come to help with the timing and the collection of questions and things of that sort. And I want to thank all of you for giving up your time to come out to be informed, because I think that's a critical thing that we need to have. And we need more citizen participation, citizen delving into questions. I appreciated Ken Mercer's list of why didn't we talk about these things. I wish we had another couple of hours so that we could cover all those, but the Community Media Center has very graciously said that they will put the additional questions on their website, and we'll give you an opportunity to respond to those if you want to respond. And then please, you as the citizens can visit the website and see what they say. In addition to that, the League of Women Voters does the Vote 411 service. Many of you had a little card. I didn't have quite enough to put on every seat. This is an electronic voter's guide as opposed to the old printed League of Women Voters Guide. But each of the candidates has questions. They will answer those questions electronically, and it's a really simple process. You go to a computer, you type in vote, V-O-T-E, 411.org, and then you put your address in. When you put your address in, every office that you are eligible to vote on will come up with the candidates. Their answers to the specific questions that have been asked will come up. You can even put the answers side by side to compare. So it's a really pretty slick system. I like it. We will be able to print out some for those people who cannot access it directly themselves because they're in a nursing home or they don't have computer savvy skills and things, and they didn't go to Carroll County Public Schools. What can I say? Okay, so anyhow, I think we're drawing to a close. I do thank you very much. I thank the candidates very much. This will be rebroadcast on Channel 19. The first broadcast will be April 11th. That's is that tomorrow? That's tomorrow. Yeah, I'm losing track of time here. At 7:30 p.m. Additional broadcasts will be Saturday at 9 a.m., at noon, and at 7:30 p.m. Now, I know you probably don't want to watch them again, but maybe some family member or a neighbor couldn't make it tonight, and you could tell them. It will also be broadcast on Monday, the 14th, at 9 a.m. and at noon. WTTR 1470 a.m. will rebroadcast the program on Sunday. So the forum will be available for viewing. The questions will be available for the candidates to answer at the Community Media Center. So if you've never visited their website, and I have to confess, I did do it until fairly recently, I highly recommend it. There's a whole world of stuff on there. Thanks for coming tonight. I really appreciate it.